Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. We find ourselves on a Medday Thursday, and I tell you what, as our temperatures begin to heat up as we head into the weekend, one of those things that we cannot ignore is wanting to be outside. I mean, we're coming off post-pandemic. Everybody wants to, get out and enjoy some fresh air, and we are fortunate enough this morning to be joined by Dr. Josh Brugman. Dr. Brugman has been an emergency room doctor for the past 9 years. He works at Via Christi Hospital. In Ascension Hospital there in Pittsburgh. And Doc, I tell you what, we've heard a lot of stories with the way this year is going as far as tick infestation. Is that something in the medical world that you are seeing right now?
I haven't really been experiencing much in the way of tick-borne illnesses yet this year, but I anticipate that will be coming as people get out and about more. So nationwide, there are about 50,000 cases of tick-borne diseases each year. In 2019, there were about 50,000 cases. So it is fairly common. And of course, your risk for getting a tick-borne disease varies based on your level of activity. So, somebody who spends a lot of time outside fishing, hiking, and that type of thing is going to be more at risk. So how likely you are to get a tick-borne disease depends almost entirely on your activities.
Doctor, that's interesting because as you and I were talking about doing this interview, number one, you were out working in your backyard. Number two, I happened to be sitting on the porch and I had a tick crawling up my shirt that luckily I identified and was able to get rid of. Now, with that being said, you and I both being outdoors people, let's talk about prevention. What's the best way to go about that?
Sure. So there are a few things you can do to prevent tick bites in general. One is simply to avoid the areas of concern. So that would be, deep woods, areas of heavy brush, tall grass, those types of things. Another is to wear long pants. And if you want to be very stylish, tuck your pants into your socks. That just creates a physical barrier for the ticks to get access to your skin. Okay. Another is to use a repellent. You want to use a repellent that has DEETs in it. So look at the ingredients on the repellent and use a repellent that has DEETs. And the other is just to identify and remove ticks as fast as you can. The risk of getting a tick-borne disease is greatest after about 24 hours of the tick bite. So if you can get the tick off within 24 hours, you greatly reduce your risk.
Okay, Doc, I want to jump in right there because we can take every precaution known to man, but these are pests and they're going to find a way to survive. So I ask you this: I have a tick on. I've taken all the precautions, right? But I ended up with a tick. What's it? I know all the wives' tales. I've heard other people with different solutions. What is the best way to do tick removal?
So the best way to remove a tick is to either use some tweezers or a tool specifically made for tick removal. There are a number of them that you can find on Amazon or over the counter specifically made for that purpose. I'll tell you what I do. I use just a flat-tipped tweezer like one of these two, and I live out in the woods. I get lots of ticks and I just pull them off with tweezers. You do not need to pre-treat yourself with anything. You don't need to put mustard on. You don't need to put a hot match on the tick or any of those things. In fact, things that you do to aggravate the tick may actually make them more likely to regurgitate or dig deeper into the skin, and so that's not recommended. So what you want to do is grab a hold of that tick as close to the skin by the head as possible and just lift directly up perpendicular to the skin and pull that out. You want to make sure you get all the parts of the tick out, so examine it closely afterwards and make sure there are no parts left in. If there are, you may need some help from a healthcare professional to get the remaining parts out. And then after you remove the tick, that's when you treat your skin. So you use antibiotic soap and scrub it down, use some alcohol, use some kind of antiseptic on your skin after you remove the tick.
Doc, since it is tick season, can I convince you into sticking around here just real fast so we can revisit? Because I want to talk about when I need to identify when I need to go to a doctor.
Sure thing.
Okay, we're going to catch up with Dr. Josh Brugman here in just a little bit. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Spring